sa ating regular media forum and press conference to issue the major position paper of the Asian Century Philippine Strategic Studies Institute. And today, pag-uusapan po natin several issues, starting with the nuclear war, a scenario in the Philippines, following the very popular release of the book, A Nuclear War Scenario by Jacobsen, the 2024 instant and international bestseller book, indicates the alarm the world's thinking class has of the world because of the escalating events now transpiring in West Asia, the U.S.-Israel versus the Arab world in its front lines in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. And in Eastern Europe, the Ukraine war that is now being brought to Asia, and the Philippines with the U.S. installation of its missile launchers in the country. Let me just check my visuals. So you can see the front cover of the book, Nuclear War, a Scenario. Global concern of the above, which has reached panic levels in some quarters, may explain the popularity of the book, which was heightened recently by Russian President Putin. In a September 2024 announcement, President Putin announced the revision of Russia's nuclear doctrine, enumerating a broader list, quote, a broader list of countries and military alliances that are subject to nuclear deterrence. Aggression against Russia by a non-nuclear country, but with a participation or support of a nuclear country. Earlier in July 2024, President Putin was quoted saying, quote, "Today it is known that the United States not only produces these missile systems, but has already brought them to Europe for exercises, to Denmark. Quite recently, it was announced that they are in the Philippines," unquote. Reckless Filipino officials like Defense Secretary Guo are keeping the perilous prospect from Filipinos, but the looming nuke war scenario in the Philippines is a specter that cannot be dismissed. This hair-raising scenario was brought about when the BBM government embraced the U.S., the United States, and its strategy of forever wars, thereby expanding the unconstitutional U.S. military bases in the Philippines and accepting the installation of Typhoon missile launchers and intermediate missiles on a permanent basis. This has threatened the major powers in Asia, and brings to mind the Cuban Missile Crisis that brought the world to the brink of nuclear war in 1962. China's missile message. Our focus on President Putin's nuclear doctrine revision is not to downplay the concern of Asian superpower China that it declared by launching an ICBM test deep into the Pacific. An announced launch for the first time in 40 years that flew over U.S. allies, Japan, and the Philippines, and towards the direction of the United States and its Pacific military bases. China calls the forever deployment of U.S. Typhoon missile system in the Philippines as poison to the Philippines and the region. The U.S. neither confirms nor denies the presence of nuclear weapons or missiles among their stockpiles in the U.S. bases of our country, a question that the spineless BBM government, its clownish defense secretary and national security advisor don't dare to verify. Targeted countries must always assume the presence of nukes in these stockpiles. Hence, the presence of the U.S. missiles makes the country a target for nuclear preemption, or retaliation, where Filipinos will be cooked. Of the three China currently has the smallest stockpile of the three major nuclear powers. China currently has the smallest stockpile of nuclear warheads, 500 by most estimates. In comparison, the US has 5,000, while Russia has 6,000. Being in third place, China continues to protest US hype of an alleged China nuclear threat theory. However, if the US keeps using country proxies like the Philippines to threaten it, China may expand quickly to reach its nuclear weapons potential. In the meanwhile, China continues to call for global disarmament. The irresponsible proliferation of US missiles in the world, and particularly in the Philippines, threatens the region as a whole. Once again, we remind the Philippine government that the country has signed the Southeast Asian Nuclear Weapons Free Zone and the Zone of Peace, Freedom, and Neutrality Pact its ASEAN with its ASEAN neighbors. Connivance with the US in deployment of missiles to the Philippines is a violation of these agreements. Upholding a shared future to build a world of peaceful coexistence. China will be alongside the global majority of developing nations when BRICS will hold its crucial summit this October in Kazan, Russia, with the theme Strengthening Multilateralism for Equitable Global Development and Security, unquote. China has been at the forefront of the global campaign to promote the vision of a global community organized into a multipolar world that enjoys a shared future of forever peace and prosperity based on peaceful coexistence of all human civilizations, ideologies, and nations. Joie. The Chinese People's Association for Peace and Disarmament invited the Philippines to participate last September 19 to 21 in its commemorative event for the International Day of Peace 2024. The Philippines was ably represented by political observer Ms. Joie Cruz, who joins us in today's media forum to share her insights into the event and her impressions on the dreadful prospect of a nuclear war scenario in the Philippines and the world. The thematic paper of the International Day of Peace event explains, quote, "The world today is confronted with the choice between peace and war, prosperity and recession, and solidarity and confrontation. We need to keep abreast of the times, grasp the historical trend, stay committed to peace, development, and win-win cooperation. The aspiration of the people around the world for peace, tranquility, and a better life is the goal we should work together to attain," unquote. The Philippines will contribute to this global shared future only if we continue our anti-bases and missiles, anti-BBM proxy war campaign. Presently, our foremost activities are the information crusades to fight the massive US $1.6 billion anti-China propaganda campaign and the city-to-city anti-war caravan that has traveled from Manila to Tuguegarao and Cebu, and our next stops are Cagayan de Oro and General Santos cities, where US bases are also located or being located. That is our statement on this crisis the Philippines is facing with the prospect of a nuclear war scenario coming to our region and to our country. I think we showed our few slides of Madame Joie de Vivre sa screen natin, and we're very happy she accepted our invitation to share with us her insight from the event she attended. But before that, we have several other reports and analysis that we would like to present to the audience, to the public. One, of course, is Danny, can you introduce Hugo Chavez and Hugo Santos?
Yeah.
No? Yeah, go ahead, please. I'll ask Ado to put to come over to my seat here.
He's next.
Yeah, he's next.
Yes. Good morning again. Thank you, Kamentong, for your introduction. We have 5 subjects that we will tackle today in the forum entitled Upholding a Shared Future to Build a World of Peaceful Coexistence. First subject is the Philippine nuclear war scenario. Second is a report on U.S. spy ops and info war expectations in ASEAN Business and Investment Summit this year. Next is sharing insights from the International Day of Peace in Shandong Province. That will be delivered by Ms. Joie later on, and also a book review on the new book, A Nuclear War Scenario with Joie Vivre. Next is to be presenting will be Mr. Hugo Santos, who is the Asian Century Philippines' representative at the Vladivostok Eastern Economic Forum last month. Let us welcome Mr. Santos for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Daniel. I just water lang. Water lang. Water. So thank you again, Kamentong and Daniel. So I'm going to discuss about my upcoming trip to Lao PDR for the ASEAN Summit. So expectations are quite high, but they're not that ambitious. Considering the host is a friend of China in a neutral country, Laos has always been a key player in the Mekong region, together with Vietnam, Myanmar, and Thailand. But Laos will host ASEAN at a critical time with the Israel-Gaza war, Ukraine conflict, and a possible conflict in the South China Sea. So we would expect President Marcos to interact with regional partners in ASEAN, plus dialogue partners such as China, Japan, South Korea, Russia, and many more. We would expect President Marcos to de-escalate the situation, hopefully, in the South China Sea if he can interact with, if I'm not mistaken, if it's not Xi Jinping, I think Li Qing will be attending. Okay. Sorry. So we're expecting more consensus on the South China Sea. We have claimants there, obviously, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia in the Tuna Sea. We're hoping to have a consensus with these countries along with China. China is very open to dialogue, along with our ASEAN partners. So let's hope the Philippines makes progress with opening dialogue with our ASEAN partners, not just our Western friends. And of course, with OFWs there, we are considering business exchanges with the Mekong region. I think most of our OFWs in Laos are teachers. But yeah, we're there not just for ASEAN, we're there to talk to the world. Now as the Philippines is in like not really traditionally ASEAN centric or ASEAN centrality, we're pumapanig tayo, we're hedging polarized world. So I hope the Philippines would be more multipolar in this summit because we're hosting ASEAN in 2 years. So we hope we can set the stage. Thank you. I think 10 ASEAN member states plus businessmen and think tanks plus the dialogue partners, EU, Russia, China, South Korea, Japan, India, New Zealand, Australia. Canada might be invited. So almost like APEC. So 5 to 10,000 or more delegates, business delegates. So. Oh, yeah. Good morning, sir. Manila Times. Yes, English na lang. Kasi baka may mga English. Sir, kasi we're going to visit Laos next week for the ASEAN Summit. And we're expecting more cooperation with Philippines and fellow claimant states, Malaysia, Vietnam, sa South China Sea. And hopefully we could have like they could have like a joint agreement to de-escalate the situation. Especially, malala na yung sa atin. I mean, recently, right, Malaysia, nagkaroon sila in the South China Sea, they drilled. But the economic front, they're getting along, no? So hopefully we could learn from them and Vietnam when working with China, especially in the South China Sea. Bilateral relations get better, hopefully. Thank you. I'm just a visitor there, but there's a youth panel there and youth session for youth delegates. So I'm still waiting for the reply. If I can get through there, I want to see the perspective of the youth, what this generation expects in this geopolitical situation. Because that's a different view, no? The youth, because they're the next leaders. So we're expecting a lighter view on them compared to the policymakers we have. Well, as a private citizen, right? Yeah, I think we could benefit more if we coordinate with all our neighbors in ASEAN, and of course with countries like superpowers like China, Russia, and many more. So I think as a youth, no, as like the future leaders, we should be friends with everyone. They said friends to all, enemy to none. So we should walk the talk.
But is that what the Philippines is doing now, diplomatically, with regards to, let's say, in particular, this as ASEAN business grouping? Is the Philippines exhibiting positive approaches?
Well, I think we have the Build Better More program. So of course, Go Negosyo is going to be there. Sir Joey Concepcion, DTA Secretary Roque. So we're expecting to promote our infrastructure business as well as the digital technology. But of course, we need to work with more countries. I mean, that's why there's this regional business summits. We have to work with more countries that are non-traditional. So expectations are quite high, but let's hope it works.
Has there been any data concerning the effect of the dispute towards the Asian business community?
Sorry.
Is there any data concerning is there data concerning the impact of the territorial disputes of the Philippines?
Well, of course, it's not looking good compared to our neighbors to invest here. I think in real estate and long-term investments, they're quite skeptical because neighbors like what? Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia. It's quite competitive because the economic side, the geo-economic side, and geopolitics are separated. In our case, we're not that matured yet, no, to put it nicely. So it's a big effect, no? And political dynasties and wars here, it's major turn off. We have to. I mean, sorry for saying it, but we have to focus on our economic front and separate it from our political front. Because if we always put that up front, it's not really going to attract investors. But we're rising. We're a rising economy, but we have to catch up with our neighbors.
Any questions from anybody else, Chris? Okay lang. Ado, Joy, you have any question about ASEAN business? Wala muna.
Pagbalik ko, ang dami.
Okay. Oh, sige, back to you, Danny.
Okay, thank you, Hugo, for your discussion on the ASEAN upcoming forum. We hope you'll give a good report when you return. Next is Kaado Paglinawan. He's the Vice President for Internal Affairs of the Asian Century Philippines. Let us welcome Kaado for his opening remarks.
Okay, I have basically two topics today. The first being the statement of the U.S. Ambassador Mary Kay Carlson, calling the 9-dash line as a cartoon. Invited to keynote the 33rd Mindanao Business Conference in General Santos City last September 13 to chart its sustainable development. Her frivolous foray to geopolitics depicting China's claims in the South China Sea as a cartoon was utterly uncalled for and sorely opportunistic. She showed her preference to serve as a megaphone of the U.S. rules-based order rather than act as a professional diplomat, dispensing the use of force or underhanded means and employing statecraft for the peaceful adjustment of differences between involved states. Carlson's visit, however, has augured a new vigor on the part of the Americans to pursue Gensan as another location after 4 new sites were added on April 2023 to the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. But other than $100 million per year in military assistance for the next 5 years, we still have to see what better the United States can offer in humiliating contrast to the $23 billion to the Marcos administration that Xi Jinping promised to the Philippines in January 2023. We will have to see something more than what the U.S. Embassy gave its audience at General Santos. Words, words, words. It must be reiterated at this point that China does not base its claims in the South China Seas on the 9-dash line. The country is more than 3,000 years old, and it understands maps do not constitute titles in international law. On the other hand, UNCLOS is just one treaty and cannot be construed to serve as the totality of international law, that is the sum total of more than 250,000 written treaties and customary traditions between and among nations. If the Philippines continues to ignore China's historic rights, the Philippines stands to lose a total of 900,000 square kilometers of sovereignty over its erstwhile territorial seas. A common application of UNCLOS ruling pertaining to the new details on archipelagic delimitations, as in Article 47 and following, will cancel out Philippine claims to the Kalayaan Island Group, 70,000 square kilometers of sovereignty, as per its 1978 Presidential Decree 1596 and his historic title and historic waters, 830,000 square kilometers of sovereignty within the treaty limits established by the 1898 Treaty of Paris, the 1900 Treaty of Washington, and the 1930 Convention between the United States and Great Britain. This is one thing Justice Carpio and our Bangag administration does not tell the people. And so with the mainstream prostituted media. Rule-based order is not international law. It is the United States' onerous interpretation of international law. The Philippine claims in the South China Seas are based on UNCLOS only became effective as recent as 1994. They are primarily just sovereign rights on so-called exclusive economic zones. China's claims are on sovereignty acquired through historic rights, prior treaties, and customary law. It is obvious that sovereign rights are inferior to and cannot protrude sovereignty. There is a clear asymmetry that can only be resolved through bilateral negotiation. If the Philippines insists on asserting its perceived rights through the patronage of the US and its allies that are not even a member of UNCLOS, the US is neither a claimant or a coastal stakeholder. On April 17 this year, let us show the slide of the Tomahawk. The United States spirited in its Typhoon weapon system, which when armed with Tomahawk missiles can destroy targets 2,500 kilometers away with an option to carry nuclear warheads. It is now parked in the Lawag City Airport, which is not even a legitimate EDCA site. Not only are we hosting an offensive weapon of mass destruction in violation of our constitutional policy of non-nuclear proliferation and renouncing war as an instrument of policy, we are sending chills to the spines of our ASEAN neighbors. As you can see, it can reach Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei on the south. It can demolish Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia. On the west, it can reach China and North Korea on the north. Any country within the radial reach of typhoon that feels threatened can exercise an exemption to Article 50 of the UN Charter to launch a preemptive attack on the Philippines to summarily destroy whatever is causing the threat. This is a video on the Chinese launch of an ICBM missile near the Pacific Ocean. That is only a Dongfeng 31. It is not yet a Dongfeng 41. And anything up to 12,000 miles is covered by short-range missiles, medium-range missiles, inter-region ballistic missiles, and this one is an intercontinental ballistic missile. Let us show the video. There you go. In 15 minutes. to travel from the Philippines to California, it takes about 8 to 10 hours, depending on the route. Hours. This one took 15 minutes to get to Hawaii, which is a 6 to 7 hours travel by ordinary airplane. An American fighter jet scrambled and tried to shoot it down with an interceptor missile. The missiles were outpaced by the Chinese ICBM. My next topic is on the hullabaloo about POGO. The Philippine Overseas Gaming Operations is legal. The law that legalized POGO is Republic Act 11590 of 2021. There is no law that illegalizes POGO to this day. There's no human trafficking because it is legal. There is no money laundering in the cash flow of a business that is not illegal. So what is this? What is this circus? The president's ban on POGO is an executive action that only starts January 1, 2025, but does not still illegalize POGO, but is also not sufficient to criminalize it because Congress has yet to rescind the law. Only POGO operations may be stopped. But this government has demonized POGO as a cover-up for its inept and incompetence in curbing criminal elements that have taken advantage of the POGO environment. There is a distinction. Alice Guo is not organic to any POGO. She is not an employee either. She is just a lessor, independent contractor, shopping agent, authorized representative. Alice and Cassandra Go are leasers of properties where the tenant is a POGO. The lessor is not any party to ask about the tenant's POGO business and activities. Any illegal activities of POGO within the leased property does not necessarily incriminate the lessor. Lessors make their living from rents. Government earn taxes from these rents. To enhance competitiveness, lessors enable public relations accommodations to entice foreign investors to locate their business and stay in the Philippines. It has brought about $40 billion in revenues in 2021. Lessors also can act as initial local contact, help tenants get business licenses, assist tenants and their employees get visas, act as agents to pay utility bills and employee salaries, contract renovations, and some even serve as tour guides. But that does not make them POGO employees. On the question of Alice Go's birth certificate, the charge is that Alice's registration of birth was fraudulent. How can this be when a fraud How can this be a fraud when the certificate was processed within the system and not outside? The correct label is erroneous entry. So the recourse is for correction of entry. To look for Alice's primary proof of age, she can file a motion for investigation. To cure the defects, affidavits of pertinent parties can be submitted. If no affidavits are produced, and no one can ascertain her circumstances of birth, just like in the case of Senator Grace Poe, she can be declared as a foundling. Fingerprint. Alice's fingerprint was mistakenly entered in a certain Guang Ping's I-Visa form, Special Investors Resident Visa. That is not her fault. The person who mistakenly entered that should be the one questioned, not she. Comelec case. Alice did not misrepresent her certificate of candidacy for mayor because all information she entered is based on documents issued by the Philippine government. Philippine birth certificate, PSA, and Philippine passport. Ombudsman. Her unfortunate dismissal from office is an administrative action, not a criminal conviction. The action of the Ombudsman was initiated by a motion of Interior Secretary Benjamin Abalos. Why are we pointing this out? Failing to establish any case against Alice Guo after throwing the entire kitchen at her. The House of Representatives used the testimony of Shi Jia, a self-confessed Chinese spy detained in Thailand, in an Al Jazeera document asserting that Alice Guo is Guo Huaping. Note that earlier, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian said that this should be first validated by Philippine intelligence authorities. The senators also did ask Sheila Guo and Cassandra Ong about Guo Huaping. They had anticipated that both will corroborate that Alice and Guo Huaping are not the same person. The alleged whistleblower, Shi Jiang's testimony is full of holes. This is a triple hearsay. Shi Jiang, Al Jazeera, and Congress. First, let us not forget that Al Jazeera is an American-supported media. The CIA uses this Qatari network for overt intelligence outside of the Middle East. Second, Alice Guo was earlier confirmed to already be studying in a Chinese high school in the Philippines. At the time, the witness said she left China and was inserted into the Philippines. The idea, therefore, of a Chinese spy in the Philippines is nothing but a horse packing. Horse manure. There are about 20 million Filipino Chinese in country that are potential suspects. Treason is a crime only during wartime. China's government has banned POGOs and is asserting our law enforcers and is assisting our law enforcers run after illegal Chinese doing business in the Philippines. So there you are. First, about Mary Kay Carter, and second, about the circus going on And this is dangerous because in the second case, this has led to environment of impunity and the violation of human rights of Filipino citizens. Alice Guo is a Filipino citizen unless proven otherwise. All the cases against her in the judiciary are still being filed or has just been filed. The prosecutor has not even presented his case on these matters. But why are we detaining this person and other persons who are Filipino citizens is something that blows my mind. Are we in some kind of a martial law in this country? Are we already being run by a mafia in government? As far as my sources is concerned, the real masterminds of the POGO illegal operations has been operating as a law office even before 2022 presidential elections. And this law office has been involved in the legalization of papers and visas for illegal POGO operations. After 2022, my source reveals that POGO operations has been divided by the mastermind north to Porac, Pampanga, with Bambang as a branch, in favor of somebody who contributed 750 million pesos to a presidential candidate. South, it is represented by another Chinese. These two Chinese reports to two cabinet secretaries. The cabinet secretaries report to the president. So it is perhaps the president of the Philippines that we should be investigating. Unfortunately, the House and the Senate cannot call on the president to testify in any legislative hearings. I don't know what will be the solution to this. I throw it back to the audience who are listening. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Do we have any questions?
With regard to the Alice Go case, with regards to the Alice Go case and the alleged spy network involved here reported by the Al Jazeera, several columnists have come out and are coming out with more information about Al Jazeera, its connection with, of course, it is owned by the Emir of Qatar, and the connection of Qatar as a client state of the United States, and the relations of the Qatari intelligence institutions with U.S. intelligence institutions. At the same time, it has been observed and reported that the global information network of the Americans based in various countries such as Taiwan talks, for example, of course, and then China Insider based in New York and so on, all simultaneously came out after Al Jazeera's report reporting this same fake information that Alice Go, for example, left based on Zhejiang's testimonies that Alice Go and her family left for the Philippines from China in the year 2000 when in fact in the Senate hearings with Win Gatchalian, it was revealed that she was already here as a student from year 2000 to 2003. So there are many holes in the Al Jazeera story, yet it continued to be propagated worldwide. So what is your view? Is this an organized disinformation campaign or psyop campaign of the Americans?
I feel this is a two-pronged strategy. First, to cover up the real perpetrators of illegal POGO operations in the Philippines. And second, it is being used as a handle to demonize China. You know, it's very easy to claim, no? Huh? That there are Chinese spies in this country. But it's it's ridiculous. I said that there are 20 million Filipino Chinese in this country that are candidates for a possible being recruited as a spy or an asset for whatever purpose by any country, Taiwan or China. There are 1.5 Chinese nationals in this country that are holding resident visas with their own ACRs, Alien Certificate of Registration. Any one of them can be a suspect. But nobody is complaining about how the America Competes Act funds are getting into the country. Nobody is questioning about the activities of the U.S. Agency for Global Media Affairs in driving their own assets into this country. The America Competes Act for 2022-2023 has a combined budget of about $5 billion. And in the legislation that passed the U.S. Congress, it can be used for corrupting our legislature, corrupting our diplomatic corps, corrupting our executive branch and offices under in the executive branch, corrupting our media. Some are on the record as recipients of humongous grants from the NED, National Endowment for Democracy, which replaced the overt operations of the CIA in 1983. And these are all in the open. These are all documented. So why is the attention on China when the attention should be on the United States? Why talk about the danger of China invading us when the United States has already invaded us in 9 EDCA sites, which according to Ivy Marcos, 25 daw yan. And not only that, they brought in offensive weapons into the country in violation of our constitution. Nobody's talking about it. The attention is on Chinese sleeper cells, but nobody's talking about American sleeper cells. You see them in Zamboanga. There is no EDCA site in Zamboanga. You see them in General Santos. You see them in Davao. You see them all over the Philippines. There is even talk of bringing in Afghan refugees. And this could be trained people, trained employees of the United States in the Afghanistan war, which can be used to man all these EDCA sites instead of Filipinos. And what about the EDCA provision that exempts the United States from confirming or denying the presence of whatever they bring into the country? These are the areas where legislation is most needed for the protection of the Filipino people and the Filipino national interest. Why is there no investigation? That when we opened 4 additional sites for EDCA in April 2023, 11 bilateral agenda involved in the bilateral talks between China and the Philippines were all put on hold. Why is it that the infrastructure development involving China in the Philippines, involving railroads primarily, have been put on hold? Why are visas being controlled for tourists? During the time of Noynoy Aquino, the top performance of tourists, Chinese tourism, is 360,000. In 2018, there were 900,000, 3 times more Chinese tourists that came into the Philippines. In 2019, there were 1.8 million Chinese tourists that came into the Philippines. This is a total of almost 3 million Chinese tourists spending $1,000 per tourist and giving 2 jobs per tourist. With the combined impact of, say, about $10 billion inflow to our economy direct to the people. Kaya we cannot cope up with the inflation kasi there is no new money coming in. Nakaharang ang mga Amerikano. Bakit nakaharang ang mga Amerikano? Ganoong China lamang ang may pera. Sila nga wala pera eh. Lahat ng pera binibigay nila sa atin, puro military. Kaya ang tataba ng bulsa ngayon ng Armed Forces of the Philippines eh. There total of $500 million for 5 years, 100 million a year. Pinapalit natin doon sa 23 billion na pledge ni Xi Jinping noong January 2023 para sa bansang Pilipinas. Tapos ngayon, nangungutang tayo. Tapos ngayon, nagbebenta tayo ng ginto. Tapos ngayon, pati pera ng PhilHealth, ginagastos natin. Tapos ngayon, mga program appropriations, kinukumbert natin into unprogrammed funds, pamudmod para sa eleksyon na darating ng 2 tao lamang. The Speaker of the House and the Chairman of the House Appropriations Committee. Ano na nangyayari dito sa ating bansa? Yan ang tanong namin. Kung kayo naghihirap, kung kayo nakikinig, naghihirap, ayan ang rason. Walang bagong pera pumapasok sa bansa natin. Walang bagong pera na nakikreate. We have no factories. For our factories to function, we have to import, assemble, and re-export. Marginal lamang ang kinikita ng Pilipinas ngayon sa service. Wala nang POGO. Mamaya-maya, Mga robots na nandyan, wala na rin ang mga call centers. Saan papunta tayo? Wala na rin tayo agriculture. O, tanong ng mga busea, ang bugas, asa na? So, saan tayo huhugot, mga kabansa? Ayan ang tanong. Tapos, ang kapalit is putting us in the clear and present danger of being a target for any country that is threatened by the presence of the Typhoon missile system in Lawag. Ito ang mga question na dapat tanungin natin. Tanungin natin ang sarili natin, tanungin natin ang mga kapamilya natin, tanungin natin ang mga kapitbahay natin. Ano ba talaga nangyayari sa Pilipinas ngayon? Saan tayo papunta? Galing na tayo sa kangkungan ng panahon ni Noynoy Aquino. Ngayon, nasaan tayo? Wala na kangkong. Putik na lang ang natitira. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kado. No.
Sir, I have a question regarding you mentioned Chinese nationals, maraming Chinese nationals sa Pilipinas, no? Let's just put it, paano po kung yung mayor na yon is not Chinese, at let's say, Amerikano siya, Hapon siya, or Korean, would we have the same situation? Or it's because she is Chinese? Kaya nagkaroon ng gano'n.
Well, you said it. If Alice Go was Korean, I don't think there will be anything. By the way, she's still qualified to run for mayor, but I hope she runs for senator. Because next to Sara Duterte, Alice Go is the second most popular person in this country today.
Is it safe to say na ginagamit ng issue kay Alice para pagtakpan naman pag-deploy ng mga missiles, mga nuclear weapons dito sa bansa?
Yes, and many more activities of the Americans going on. In fact, dapat natin tanongin, paano biglang naging interesado ang mga representante ng Kamara dito sa Chinese spy? Bakit ito nagkaroon ng interest dyan? Anong legislation na pinopropose nila dyan, di ba? Bakit sila kating-kati pagdating sa aspeto na yan? Ako'y natutuwa na as the investigations go on, I think Alice Go has already been educated pati sa pagsagot niya sa mga tanong. And I think she has been fully appraised by now of her rights and the nature of the charges against her. Bakit? Parang kondesa, parang prinsesa, parang reyna ang pagsundo sa kanya ni Benjamin Abalos at ni General Marbil mula sa Indonesia. Kumuha pa sila ng eroplano, private plane. Nag-aapura. Ano ba ang kinatatakot nila kung si Alice Go ay nasa labas ng bansa? Na baka kumanta siya? By the way, hindi pa na-explain ng Malacanang kung bakit may mga picture si Marcos Jr. At si Amy Marcos noong 2022 campaign. with Alice Go. And by the way, second hearing pa lang noon pa, last year pa, about Alice Go. Kung natatandaan ninyo, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. grabbed the narrative. Wala naman pakialam ang presidente dyan eh. Dapat si Altenco ang nangangasiwa dyan, di ba? Pero bakit grinab ni Bongbong Marcos ang narrative as early as the second hearing in the Senate? When he said that nobody in Tarlac knows Alice Go. We don't know where she came from. Why from nowhere? All this fantastic interest on this one mayor of a small town. Hindi ba kayo nagtataka? Ano ang dapat yan nasa presidential agenda? So, sa layo. Ha? Ang dami natin problema. Sa trade, sa tourism, sa... by the way, tourism, no? Hindi ko nabanggit na as of last year, ha? Natalo pa ni Noynoy Aquino, dumating na Chinese tourist dito last year, 267,000 lamang. Ang una nilang rason, dahil kinamatay nga ni Ambassador Chito Santa Romana dahil, can you imagine 24/7, nag-i-issue sila ng visa sa Chinese Embassy at Consulate sa US at the rate of about 6,000 a day, manual. O tapos, biglang nawala ang Chinese tourists. Ang una nilang excuse under the Marcos administration was sa substitute from manual visa to e-visa. Pangalawa nilang rason, something went wrong with the system. Eh ngayon, nandiyan na yung e-visa. E-visa. Electronics can produce 6,001 visas a day. Unlimited yan. Depende sa pumapasok na sa digital, di ba? Applications. Eh bakit 267,000 lang ang dumating na tourist dito last year? At wala pa yata, hindi magpa 500,000 this year. At nilagyan pala ng quota ang Chinese visas to the Philippines. Samantalang lahat ng kapitbahay natin halos no visa sa mga Chinese tourists. So nga, si Secretary Frasco, bakit? Ang target niya 8 million total tourists to the Philippines last year. Ano lang nangyari? 4 million lang dumating. Wala nga kasing Chinese tourists. Kung nasa 1.8 na tayo noong 2018 and i-move natin niya sa 2021-2022, aba, by 2024, dapat nasa 5 million Chinese tourists na tayo dito. Because during the time in 2018, we were number 2 country. Next only to Thailand. So sino nakinabang dito sa blockade na ito ng Chinese tourists to the Philippines? Malaysia. Number 1 ngayon ang Malaysia in terms of, natalo pa ang Thailand in terms of Chinese tourists. Kaya bonggang-bongga ang ekonomiya ng Malaysia. So, ang tanong dito, ano yung kino-cover up nila? Ha? Eh, sino ba ang kaklase ni Altenco sa Ateneo Law School noong 1985? Oh. Sino ba ang pwedeng mag-control ng POGO operations? Isang small town mayor from Bamban? Or the Rimule brothers? Una, gobernador, hindi lang mayor. John Vic Remulla. Pangalawa, Secretary of Justice. Na under sa kanya, NBI, under sa kanya, Bureau of Immigration. Mag-isip kayo mga kabansa. Dahil tuloy-tuloy ang pambubudol dito. At pangatlo, Diyos mio, na-discover ko, si Gilbert Remulla pala ay direktor ng PAGCOR. Bakit ang pangalan ni Kim Wong sa Southern Operations hindi lumalabas dito sa mga investigasyon na ito? Bakit sa Northern Operations under Rainier Chu, hindi sa Kongreso lumabas ang pangalan ni Rainier Chu, kundi kay Maharlika? Sa picture na pinabike ni Maharlika. At sino ang kausap? Sino in charge kay Rainier Chu? Sino handler ni Rainier Chu? Yan ang tanungin nyo. Dahil baka yan at sumundo kay Alex Guo sa Indonesia. Ako ay nagtatanong lang. Yan pa isa. Wala nagtatanong kung kanino yung aeroplano ginamit. Pero ginurgor na nila si Alex Go, ginurgor na nila si Sheila Go, ginurgor na nila si Cassandra Wong. Tuloy-tuloy ang gurguran. Ha? So, bakit nila ginagawa yan? In aid of legislation o in aid of re-election? Ayan, in aid of destruction.
Okay. Okay na? Here. Beside me. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me? Meron na. Okay. Thank you, Kado, for your report on the Chinese ICBM missiles and elucidation what really is happening with the POGO. Next, for our main event, we'll have we're honored to have the astute political observer, Miss Joie Cruz. She is you can watch her live streams on Facebook and in YouTube to give us a report on her recent trip to China. She will share insights from the International Day of Peace in Shandong Province, as well as a short book review on the new book by Annie Jacobsen, what would happen, the scenario on what would happen in the nuclear war. Let's welcome Ms. Joie for her presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Hello, and okay na. Hello, test. Okay, yeah. Good morning, everyone, and I would like to thank Kamentong and everyone who's here for inviting me. But I would just like to make a small, update, a small tweak on my presentation. I would like to start on the short book review of Annie Jacobsen's A Nuclear War, a Scenario, before I share my experience in Shandong Province attending the commemoration of International Day of Peace. I came across this book and I felt that it is very important that we talk about what's gonna happen when a nuclear war erupted. And I think it is a danger that not all Filipinos are aware of. And so I would like to start with a graphic, very graphic description of Annie Jacobsen of what's gonna happen when the nuclear weapon fall, when the nuclear bomb fall. More than 1 million people are dead or dying, and less than 2 minutes have passed since detonation. Now the inferno begins. This is different from the initial fireball. It is a mega fire beyond measure. Gas lines explode one after next, acting like giant blowtorches or flamethrowers, spewing steady streams of fire. Tanks containing flammable materials burst open. Chemical factories explode. Pilot lights on water heaters and furnaces act like torch lighters, setting anything not already burning alight. Collapsed buildings become like a giant oven. People everywhere burn alive. How and why do US defense scientists know such hideous things and with exacting precision? How does the US government know so many nuclear effects related facts while the general public remains blind? The answer is as grotesque as the question themselves, because for all these years, since the end of World War II, the US government has been preparing for and rehearsing plans for a general nuclear war, a nuclear World War III that is guaranteed to leave at minimum 2 million dead. Now, Miss Jacobson, with a little research that I did on her, she wrote this book in order to demystify nuclear war and to do away with some technicalities, terminologies, jargon on, how it operates. So normal people like you and me can understand what is going on and the danger that we are in. And in her book, she provided a scenario of what's gonna happen to us, those who are targeted and those who are going to be affected collaterally. She started by basically introducing the concept of deterrence. It guides the nuclear policy of the US. And when we talk about deterrence, basically it's just mean that each nuclear armed nation builds an arsenal of nuclear weapons that it keeps pointed at its nuclear armed enemy, ready to launch in few minutes' time. Each nuclear armed nation vows to never use nuclear weapons unless they are forced to use them. Some people see deterrence as a peaceful savior, others see it as a double speak, asking how could having a nuclear weapons keep people safe from having a nuclear war? Deterrence is basically a concept that is, there's no issue if all countries are rational. However, we have North Korea. And in the book of Miss Jacobsen, she said that the problem is there are only 9 countries in the world which has nuclear weapons. United States, Russia, France, China, United Kingdom, Pakistan, India, Israel, and North Korea. North Korea conducted 100 nuclear testing already with no announcement. And why is that important? Because the rest of the world have no idea on whether they are testing or they are already firing nuclear weapons. And obviously, that's going to be towards the United States. Deterrence basically is like an all or nothing concept. So while it works, it's okay. We are at peace. But if it doesn't work, then we have a problem because it's going to be the start of our, annihilation. Currently, US has 1,700 weapons pointing at the other side. Russia has 1,674. China has around 500 nuclear warheads. North Korea is the only country that does not report its nuclear launch in advance. And the scenario that Ms. Jacobsen presented is if North Korea is going to launch a nuclear weapon to the United States, what is going to happen? If this is the scenario, she said, it only takes 33 minutes to Armageddon, 33 minutes to annihilate 1/5 of the population of the world. And in that 33 minutes, the US president would only have 6 minutes to decide on what to do. Now, when a nuclear weapon is launched, there are many other complicated concepts that are at play, which make it so difficult because you have very, very limited time to interfere. In fact, one characteristic that Ms. Jacobsen said is that when a nuclear weapon is already launched, you cannot recall it anymore. Wala nang bawian yon. Basta napindot na yan at nai-launch na yan, that's it, pansit. That's it, pansit. Ngayon, nuclear weapons are not gonna be launched like just one or two. It's not gonna be like that. There is a concept in operating, according to Ms. Jacobsen, there is a concept that is there is a policy that is followed by the Russians and the Americans, and that is the launch on warning. And this complicates things because launch on warning is basically a policy that when, let's say, the US is attacked by a nuclear weapon, they would be allowed to do a counter-attack to the source of such nuclear weapon. So hindi pa lumalapag yung unang bomba papunta sa Amerika, yung Amerika, maglo-launch na sila ng bomba para gumante. And so, you haven't experienced, the target has not experienced yet the wrath of the first bomb, but there are already additional bombs coming to fall on the land of where the first bomb, was launched. And of course, it is not going to be like 1:1. They launch one, America will launch one. It's not gonna be like that. Russians, according to Anne Jacobsen, also follow that kind of policy that if a nuclear warhead is launched against Russia, then it's gonna entitle them to launch counter-attack at the source. Now, when a bomb is launched, when a nuclear bomb is launched, the Americans has this, apparently Ms. Jacobsen debunked the idea of interceptors. Kaado actually showed a while ago the efficiency of interceptors. I think tama po ba yun yung tinest nila if kaya bang mapigilan ang isang nuclear bomb kapag ito ay na-launch na. And she said that even the American policymakers are lying to the American public, saying that they are safe whenever there is a nuclear attack, saying because they have interceptors. Apparently, in her book, she said there are only 44 interceptors in the US, and its efficiency ranges from 45% to 55% only. So this 44, remember, reports are saying, according to Jacobsen, reports are saying that North Korea has around 50 to 130 nuclear bombs. And so if you have 44 interceptors with 45 to 55% efficiency, what does that leave us? Or, what are the chances that people are going to experience extreme catastrophe? Now, once the bomb hit, what will happen? Nuclear winter will start. And when all the bombs fell and tapos na yung putukan, 10 years of soot will remain suspended in the air, and 70% of sunlight is blocked. As such, the condition will create a failure of agriculture. It's going to be very difficult for the people to source their food because of this. Iowa and Ukraine will be frozen, and humans are to return as hunter and gatherer. 24,000 years after that nuclear war incident, still it's the human race might still be, it's not a guarantee that we would be able to return in our current state right now. So bakit yung man-made scenario na ganito, we allow for it to happen? And why did we choose this kind of direction? It's like putting a knife on our neck, that we kill ourselves at the slightest mistake that we make. Basically, ganun yung idea nung possessing nuclear weapon. One mistake from the Americans, from other countries who has nuclear weapon, isang mistake lang, you only have minutes to respond and to calculate. And so, with this book review, actually, with this information, I find it more meaningful to discuss. Kaya ko po inuna yung part na yon, because I find it more meaningful to discuss my trip in Shandong province to commemorate the International Day of Peace, because there are two very contrasting worldview on how we advance our civilization. And the first one is very clear. With the path chosen by the Americans and the other powerful countries to build up arsenal that can kill all of us, and you have another set of vision that is offered by the Chinese, and I would like to share my experience in encountering the second one. The 2024 commemoration of International Day of Peace was celebrated in Shandong province. It can't be more fitting than this, as Shandong province is the birthplace of China's most influential thinker, Confucius. As a philosophy student, I can't help but revisit the Confucian concept of harmony, as I know that the same is crucial in the formation of peace strategies of China. True enough, I see direct relationship of the theoretical foundation of China's peace agenda in its state policies and directions, and the Confucian philosophy of harmony. As discussed by Professor Che-Yang Lee, Confucian concept of harmony is multilateral and multifaceted. It cannot be achieved from any single Archimedean point. Unlike the Pythagorean conception of harmony on the basis of numbers, Confucian harmony can only be defined in qualitative terms and not quantitatively. Tension follows naturally from the heterogeneity and can become a creative element for harmony when it leads to coordination and further to cooperation. There is balance and agreement in coordination. Coordination and cooperation require mutual and reciprocal adjustment between various component parts, which is key to harmony. Coordination through mutual adjustment and cooperation creates a favorable environment for each participating party to grow and flourish. Thus, the achieved whole in a harmony is greater than the sum of its constituent parts obtainable otherwise. Harmony cannot be retained by simply keeping the status quo, as it will become stale and lifeless. The continuation of harmony itself demands new energy and new initiative. For these reasons, harmony is by its very nature is delicate. In recreating itself, harmony runs the risk of overstretching itself and become chaotic. There are various degrees of harmony. A situation may be largely harmonious while it is mixed with disharmonious elements, as well as orchestrated symphony may nevertheless contain discordant notes. While there is no such thing as absolute harmony because the harmonious states always change and evolve, always fluctuate, whatever level of harmony has been achieved, it can always be enhanced, expanded, and transformed. Harmony transcends itself through self-creation and recreation. China understands this very well. For 70 years, China hold on to its bedrock of independent foreign policy of peace, which they now call the 5 pillars of peaceful coexistence. It includes mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. They are not giving us mere concepts. The 5 pillars are etched in their dealings with sovereign equals. The world has seen independence and liberation movements across the globe, and the colonial system crumbled and collapsed at the same time, overshadowed by the dark clouds of the Cold War and menaced by the rampant clamors that might is right. There is a huge space for peace and development efforts as newly independent countries aspire to safeguard their sovereignty and grow their national economy. The question, however, is towards what direction? China's answer is by upholding shared future to build a world of peaceful coexistence. Recently, the 5 principles were included in the China-India and China-Myanmar joint statements, which called for making them basic norms for state-to-state relations. The commemoration showcased the positive responses to the call. The idea is simple. Prosperity will bring peace, security, and development as long as the same is done through mutual respect, assuring mutual benefit, and recognition of traditional and non-traditional geopolitical problems. Egypt, for example, during the conference, Egypt, for example, values the partnership with China for investing in some of their national projects and making sure that in doing so, important historical treasures are preserved. Honduras appreciates China's way of bringing new world order based on mutual respect and promoting new opportunities for each other. Hungary, who considers itself as the odd one out in Europe, laud the partnership with China on railway projects and electric vehicles, which provides opportunities to get to know each other. Morocco appreciates how China promotes partnership rather than competition and ensures economic growth while preserving culture. As we speak, China is the top trading partner of 120 countries. So many countries are benefiting from China's global initiatives. At this point, it is obscene not to recognize opportunities this vision is offering, as the same could actually help improve the lives of our fellow Filipinos when taken advantage prudently. At this point, I would like to be more specific. One key initiative of China's global effort is the Global Civilization Initiative, which intends to steer modernization based on the unique condition of a country. Philippines and China, while having differences in language and governance philosophy, are very similar in values and culture. Their problems are very similar to our problems, except that in China, they actually solve it. China embraced being an agricultural country and built their modernization blueprint through it. My visit to China include a visit to Mafang village, a rural community 800 meters away from the lake and surrounded by marshes filled with lotus plants. It was well-curated trip and perhaps a little bit glossed over to appear more successful than what it actually is. The goal was to present to a foreign observer like myself how rural revitalization programs succeeded in eradicating extreme poverty in China in less than 40 years. Whether they are telling the truth entirely or not on the village success, there is no debate that lifting 800 million of Chinese out of extreme poverty is a feat no other country has ever achieved. Rural revitalization is composed of 5 main programs: revitalization of industry, revitalization of talent, cultural revitalization, ecological revitalization, and organizational revitalization. As you can see, all aspects to make the community thrive is covered by the program. The village is near the lake, thus Mafang is known for lotus products and catches from the lake. From lotus powder to fish beer, they have it all. Village members were all trained to learn how to harness the natural resources they have in the area and earn from it. Common spaces are assured for arts and culture. They have kite-making hall and a courtyard for village festivities. Being near the lake, I asked if the village was ever flooded, and they definitely said no, because the village flood control system is the first one they ensure to have. It's basic. So when I was asking the question, I kind of felt that they were quite surprised when being asked, because ang basic nun eh. But, it's never been, insofar as the locals are concerned, even if they are 800 meters away from the lake, they have never experienced flooding in the village because of the very, very efficient flood control system that we have in the area. Kaya, mapapasana. Lastly, they provide a system wherein village members can communicate to the village leaders all their concerns and issues within the community. They have front desk reception that also functions as a store where the local village can, sell products and do commercial business to visiting tourists and the like. Each community members would have tasks and would have specific function in order to keep the community clean, safe, and functioning. Since the program implementation of the Rural Revitalization Program was so successful in this village, addressing the economic side, the peace and order, culture, arts, and other things, they can afford to subsidize the meals of their elderly residents. Mafang village is composed of, it is a village with around 300 houses. So that's around 300 families. In their village, they subsidize meals of their elderly members. They have a community cafeteria. And in that community cafeteria, elderly can buy meal 3 times a day for 7 RMB each. So that's around 21-25 pesos per meal. And it is not a it's not, it is not the 64 pesos budget that the NEDA is talking about. This is an actual meal rice, with meat, vegetable, with drinks. Very decent meal. We look at their pantry. The pantry is filled up to the brim with all the fresh ingredients and all the good stuff in there, ready to cater to the elderly in the area. So that's 9 RMB a day, 71.64 pesos based on the Philippine RMB exchanges for today, no? 1.28 US dollar per day. My experience in China gave me a better understanding on how they approach things. There is always a bigger goal in everything they do. They are solving problems and making lives better domestically and globally, but we are not fully taking advantage of it. Perhaps Filipinos should start asking these questions to themselves. What kind of world do you want to build, and how do you want to build it? Do you want to choose the one that walks in danger in every waking moment, as that nuclear scenario is giving every single individual on Earth? Or the one that provides blessing for meaningful cooperation towards a shared future? I think it is incumbent upon our government, our president, to take it seriously, that in solving our problems here in the Philippines, a peace committee specifically focus on how we can cooperate with China, in a sense that we learn from the processes, the programs that they implemented in their country and apply it on our own. There are some serious problems that they solve there. That is our problems here as well. So why can't we just start a real deal cooperation? And in this case, such cooperation is something that we can use to better our lives here. It should not be difficult. There are things that we cannot reconcile with any country, not just China, but there are things that we can actually benefit from if we are sincere in sitting down and accepting problems and challenges here, and accepting that solution might be available if only we learn what to explore and what to cooperate with when opportunity presents itself. So yeah, I think that's it for me. And if you have any question.
Yes.
Mhm.
Do we have any questions from? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Miss Joey, for the telling us the really true and morbid details of what happens during a nuclear war, and sharing to us your experiences with China and their really their vision for development, not just for themselves but mutual cooperation for mankind. Do we have any questions from online or in Zoom or in social media? Hmm.
Yeah. First, I wanted to express some observations. Number one, of course, I'm very happy that we have Madam Joy Cruz with us. I'm very happy that we have Madam Joy Cruz with us, sharing her experience and her insight, particularly on the book of Anne Jacobsen, and then the insight she has from the participation in the International Day of Peace in Shandong, China. She has delivered her insights, shared her insights in a tone that we do not hear very often here. Very, I think, of course, feminine, number one. Number two, I think very motherly, caring for the world and humanity and our nation. Because if we listen to Ado, it's always very bombastic. Yeah, I'm very scholarly, but I think we feel the warmth of the message from Joy Cruz, and that's very meaningful for our audience, I'm sure also. Number two, can we replay briefly the missile barrage from Iran against Israel? Because that proves the point that Madam Joy Cruz was saying. There is no defense to the ballistic missiles. These are just some of the scenarios from Israel. Let's take a look just briefly, because the latest figure that is admitted by that is used by all news agencies is that only 180 missiles were launched from Iran, not the initial estimates of 400 and 500. And as we can see, the ratio of successful hits from the missiles is really tremendous, although there are no official estimates. So there is no defense to any of the ballistic missiles, nuclear ballistic missiles that will be launched in case of a nuclear war exchange between Russia, US, China, North Korea, and maybe Pakistan, India, and so on. There is no defense. It is certain that we will have Armageddon when there is nuclear exchange. I think the salient point from Joy Cruz's report is that even the United States has only 44 interceptor systems, only 44 to the 2,000 rounded off that Russia can launch against the United States. So what are we talking about? Missile defense. There is no defense. There is no defense. Number two, of course, is what Madam Joy Cruz reported, that in Shandong province, in that particular town, or do you call it town, or this, they are able to provide what is promised by NEDA here, 64 pesos more or less, 74 pesos, fully 3 meals a day.
3 square meals a day.
So I think what we see from China is an organized China, organized for the welfare of the people, without necessarily national elections, because that's what we have today. I'm very happy that Manila Times was able to make it to our session today, because I think you're covering certificate of candidacy filings here and there and everywhere. So those are my observations. Anyway, any questions from the audience to our main speaker today, si Madam Joy Cruz?
Yeah. Yes. Actually, I was very surprised when, well, I know a little about how CPC work. And they claim that, they are a very people-centered government. So that means, alam niyo naman po ang mga Chinese, mga negosyante. So ang mga negosyante, laging customer is always right. So actually, if you're going to look at it in a more theoretical level, they actually make decision based on the satisfaction of their people. So if the people are not satisfied with what their government is doing, they are forced to regroup and change and approach the problem in a way na maa-address yung mga pangangailangan ng tao. Allergic sila sa complaint and reklamo actually. Contrary to the popular belief that the people has no say. It's not like that. Because in fact, I had a conversation with SAS long time ago. And it was enlightening in a sense na in China they control kasi they don't have Facebook, yung mga social media that we usually have here. So in China, if you're going to access your Facebook, your YouTube, and other social media accounts, you have to use VPN. They make it really difficult for you to get additional information. And at the onset, parang ang totalitarian, di ba po? Parang ang diktador. Parang ang pangit naman nun. Kasi bakit ganun bakit ganun sila? However, what the logic behind that is this. Especially the tension in South China Sea is also parang escalating. They do not want their people to be so hyped on things that they're not supposed to be worried about. I think nung po yatang panahon ni Pinoy na nagkaroon talaga na yung mga Chinese nagliliyab yung bad trip nila sa Pilipinas that we become part of their nightly news. They do not want something like that to happen because if the Chinese people would start, being angry at the Philippines, ganyan, or their government would not have any choice but to react on it. So that is why isa yun sa mga wisdom ng pag-control nila ng information doon. So hindi ma-hype yung mga tao, hindi magalit yung mga tao, hindi sila magwala on, unlike dito sa Philippines na tayo galit na tayo, hype na tayo. But in the Philippines, hindi naman porket hype yung tao, magre-react yung government But sa kanila, it's different. Kapag maingay yung tao nila at nagre-reklamo and, they wanted certain things to be done, their government will react immediately. Yeah. Their government will react immediately. Ha? Kasi wala na talaga silang pakialam sa tao. Well, yeah, that's the parang highly likely na scenario na kasi kahit magalit naman kayo, wala namang pakialam yung gobyerno sa atin dito. But sa kanila hindi ganon. And so depende kung how you are going to look at it na do we value our right to speak up and things like that, or you look at theirs as totalitarian pero in that sense the people are more protected, they are more protected in a sense that they are not bound to make rash decisions, especially on international affairs. In fact, if you're going to ask, I did ask some locals what they think about the dispute in South China Sea. They would usually answer, no, that's why we have government. They are the ones to solve it. They do not have very strong opinion against Filipinos, unlike Filipinos having strong opinion against them. So that's the difference. That's the main difference. And sabi ko nga po kanina, there are more similarities ng Filipinos at saka ng mga Chinese. Aside from the language and the governance philosophy, marami tayong similarities sa kanila because of the filial piety, yung mga Confucian values. Kasi meron naman tayo nun rin talaga The Chinese had been here for a very long time and they embodied that and transferred that value to us as well. Yung filial piety, yung yung bayanihan and things like that. Meron tayo nun So, sinishare natin yung mga ganong values with them. But,
is it fair to say that the Chinese people is at the village level are more concerned about immediate needs? What I can say perhaps opposed to is theoretic abstract of how Chinese is so much there's about it. Let me get my point. Is it correct to say that the Chinese people are more concerned about the needs of the people immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And how do they communicate these needs to the government?
Yeah.
In specific terms?
I noticed that most communities in China are actually smaller than the barangays that we have here.
Like, less than 200 households, for example?
Yeah, for example, the village that I visited, it's only composed of 300 houses eh. So mas konti po sila. And just like yung barangay po natin dito sa Pilipinas, where everyone can come in and pwede kang magreklamo, ganyan. Ganun rin naman sila. Ganun rin naman sila. It's just that I think the office of their barangay leader can entertain other kasi they also handle the commercial transaction present in the area. Kasi yung parang yung barangay hall nila doon, I don't know if it's only for Mafang Village or it's true in other location. May ano rin po sila, may mga, kumbaga may mga entrepreneurial activity rin doon sa lugar na yon. But if they would have, let's say, concerns or problem within the community, it's their first base to their government. Local leaders will definitely they can communicate whatever problem that they experience to their local leader, and the local leader would be the one to, just like our barangay captain here. I think the difference is it's more efficient because of the size, maybe, and I think because also of the sense of the collective sense of the Chinese is way stronger than our collective sense here. That if I'm going to raise an issue or a complaint or something like that, the concern of that person is more or less not just about himself or herself, but because there is a problem that the community might get affected. So kailangan sabihin ko to sa that's how they approach their problems.
Last question. Pilipinas kasi, no? Wala namang pera yung barangay level eh.
Mhm.
So kahit na anong sabihin mong gusto ng mga barangay officials na tumulong, wala naman silang pera eh. Now, how is it any different in the Chinese system? Is there money at the barangay level?
Yes. Actually, kaya po, ang suggestion ko talaga is really for our government to look at the rural revitalization program because it address all the aspects of a successful community. Locals earn from the natural resources available in their area. Of course, yung Mafang Village, I think parang poster ano nila yan eh, poster barangay nila yan eh. So, kumbaga parang if you are an outsider, yun po talaga yung papakita nila kasi yun yung parang naging successful. Yun yung pinaka naging successful. They are earning, the community, the village is earning because when the rural revitalization program was implemented in that area, they taught everyone technical skills para i-convert yung kanilang mga lily pads into different products. And they also taught them how to process yung mga catch na nakukuha nila sa lake and things like that. So, the barangay is earning money out of this. And I think because of that, they were able to do, they are able to offer more services to the community. In the Philippines, I think yun yung wala tayo eh. The barangay is really dependent on the national government. Yeah.
Not so much.
Oo.
Yeah.
Kumikita sila. Kumikita yung mga kumikita yung village.
One last question.
Aba.
What about village infrastructure, roads, irrigation system? Who takes care of that?
National government. I was able to talk to the Director General of International Affairs of Yunnan Province, and before transferring to parang mid-level guy siya sa CPC, mid-level government guy siya. And before he was promoted to that position, he is actually assigned dun sa mga local his job was to go to each and every communities and to figure out what the community needs. So, for example, yung mga road, infra, and things like that, those are the things that their government map kung para masolusyonan ng kanilang national government, and check all the other things that they can extend to the local communities in order for them to thrive. So may ano po talaga, meron silang very collaborative effort from their central government and their local to specifically know what each other can do in order to, in order to thrive. Well, yeah. Kaya ganon. Correct. And I think that's also with the mindset, because dahil nga communist sila, everyone felt the responsibility to really partake doon sa whatever activity that they are going to.
Yeah, several reactions lang, no? Tungkol sa information, freedom of information, and so on. Well, the freedom of information really is a farce in all parts of the world that proclaims it. And I think we can see that in the United States now, where there are a lot of protests about the pro-Palestinian perspective being suppressed by the system. It's not completely suppressed, but you can see the process. I think the case of Julian Assange is another case, no, that highlights the control actually that the real powers behind the United States are exercising. I think in the Philippines we can see that, and that is the reason why we have this regular media forum with social media and maybe with one or two established networks like Manila Times. And Manila Times is being singled out in several Philippine Star reports on so-called influence operations. That is based on aid data and Internews, both US aid and US government-funded information entities that the Philippine Star researcher Christina Chi and the staff of 4 are using. So there is really a farce going on about so-called freedom of information. It's only a matter of time. I think Manila Times successfully balances, but there are pressures also. So, number one. Number two, on socialism and governance. No? I think China is not yet declaring itself as a communist society, but a socialist society with Chinese characteristics.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why mainly they are successful, because socialism means really the dominance of the state. I always cite this example. To this year alone, the private banking system of the Philippines in the first 6 months earned 190 billion pesos. In China, all that 190 billion pesos would go to the state. These are not the non-tax revenues from just one aspect, no? That is the management of the currency of the country and the capital of the country, which is state-owned in China. Although they are now relaxing some sectors to allow private banking systems, lalo na foreign, as part of the opening up and compromise with the Western powers to allow financial services from the West, no? So, information, the economy, taxes, and so on, governance, and these are in the midst of our electoral fever now, election fever. No? I think our discussion is a rare but important opportunity to really talk about serious issues of governance of our society. And we thank Joy Cruz for bringing this information to us in this event that we have today. Um, well, there's a comment from the audience, Homer Villa. Hi, truly the Chinese value peace as a foundation for modernization and development. China successfully conducted China Development Forum for more than 2 decades now to discuss and monitor China's progress and global development. In the Philippines, do we have institutionalized forums for country development? Thank you. Well, Raul Gonzalez here is NGO, shall we say, worker for all his life. He's now 73 like me, retired, but he was also ADB, World Bank consultant and so on. Baka you can share something on this question since you have been involved in that development initiatives in the country. Raul?
Still a question to Joy, no? One of the obstacles to development in this country is really corruption. Okay, corruption, no? Let's not even go into the numbers about that, no? How does China curb corruption?
Well, that part, it wasn't really part of the trip to, but I think it is really I myself is very interested in how they did that, because they have a very, very strong program against corruption. And in fact, I think President Xi was he got really he rise to prominence because of his stance against corruption. So
This is contrary to what the Western media says.
yeah, contrary to what the Western media says about him. I remember earlier I said I had a conversation with a mid-level government guy in Yunnan province, and he shared a lot of information dun sa kanyang mga rural revitalization program efforts. And he told me that, well, he told us, the delegates who attended the event, he said that in the first few years of implementation of the rural revitalization program in China, that was the most difficult and most painful time in China for their government and for people also na mahirap during that time. And he said that 30 years ago, the extremely poor in Yunnan province is 9.3 million. So at that time, when they're trying to go to each and every villages, wala pang infrastructure, wala pang mga roads, bare talaga. Their government people would go to those places in order to identify the immediate need, ano ang uunahin, ano ang gagawin. And in doing so, a lot of their comrades would die. Sa mga sakit, dahil sa mga hindi naman sila sanay dun sa mga ganong klaseng condition, or di kaya nalalaglag sa bangin dahil sa pangit yung mga infra nila, and things like that. I want to brought that up because while I do not have deeper information on the corruption scenario sa China, with this kind of story, it shows why the Chinese people really trust their government. Kasi when they were starting to develop, they really hold on to the principle. Kasi nakikita nila, yung mga government people nila are willing to die for them just to implement the program that they wanted for the people. True enough, in 2023, Yunnan province completely obliterated extreme poverty in their area in less than 30 years.
So a documentary comparing China and India. And the title of the documentary was Why India Will Never Surpass China. Anyway, there are about 4 or 5 reasons why the author said that. One of the reasons that one of the reasons that struck me is Sa India kasi, because it's a democratic country, local government units yan who have a fixed term. So we and the author was saying that gives rise to two things. The first is, of course, the tendency towards corruption kasi pag hindi ka na manalo next time, kailangan naka-bankroll ka na. And the second is, there is really no incentive. No? Unlike the Chinese experience where the local government people are all part of the Communist Party. So if they perform well, the chances are they go up in the hierarchy of China. Is that possible?
You mean if the local leaders did well, there's a chance that they can move up the Oo. Well, that is not part of the discussion during my trip. But general information were given to us, like pag part kasi sila ng government at well, getting in is very difficult. First and foremost, hindi lahat talaga ma-accept into. In fact, dun sa kanilang National Museum, the centerpiece of their National Museum is the civil service exam of a certain guy who lived thousands of years ago. That's how important for them ang civil service, ang public service. That's the centerpiece of their national museum. So, first and foremost, mahirap pumasok sa government nila. Talagang it requires that, you know, you possess certain skill set that and you know certain skill set, morals and aptitude to really belong to that kind of job. Tapos meron po silang mga meron silang parang at a certain age na at a certain age ito na yung magiging position mo if you're doing well, if you're ito na yung magiging position mo at the age of ganyan, magiging mid-level guy ka na, and then until you further your service in the party. I wish I could I wish I could discuss more about it, but just like you, sir, I'm also still exploring this kind of things kasi it makes their structure more cohesive and more more stable because maybe it's because of the values also na they take pride with what they have achieved within the party. So that is why kapag ka nag-excel sila in things like that, they can get recognition, ganon. But I do not know if aside from the rigid structure of China when it comes to their socialist value, everything is the same rin naman po. They enjoy the benefits of having money, ganyan. I mean, you know, they can enjoy, everything is the same. So kumbaga parang like in the village that I was talking about, because the village is rich, they enjoy a lot of things in their village. They can, you know, whatever money can buy that they can afford, they can do that. So in terms of whether that person na magli-lead dun sa village na yon would have certain incentive when they excel, I think it's the system that makes them in line. Unlike do sa democratic na sistema na kagaya nga sinabi ninyo, kasi kapag hindi ka nananalo, wala ka na. 'Di ba? Wala ka na. Hindi ka na pag hindi ka nananalo sa na yon, sa election na yon or what not. So, either you hold on to power or mag-ipon ka na ng makukuha mo while you are there. Because you know it's not permanent, you can be replaced. Yun.
Yeah, I think that last point. That last point is very important. Ang ating bureaucracy based on elections is short term.
Mhm.
Pag nanalo ka, pagsamantalahan mo na. At mag-ipon ka para sa susunod na election din. And nakikita natin actually ngayon live on TV, sa harap po natin yung ginagawa nila Martin Romualdez, diverting from the regular budget to unprogrammed budget, hundreds of billions. Because I think they're going for broke in these elections that are coming for a perpetuation of their ruling class. No? Dalawang beses nang nabanggit yung party. But I think you were really discussing the Communist Party of China. 92 million members. And that is, when you mention people, workers, government workers going to the rural areas, sacrificing their lives, those are party members.
Yes, yes.
Masunurin kasi meron silang ideolohiya. It begins with the ideology. And that is what people in the so-called electoral democracies are missing. Sa tingin nila, eleksyon ang buhay ng demokrasya. Hindi, it is the ideology, service to the people. That is and you cannot have that kind of dedication if short-term nga ang iyong trabaho sa gobyerno. Pati yung career government officials natin, naglalaro doon sa short-term music na yon. Boss ko ngayon ito. Lahat ng gusto niya, gagawin ko. Corrupt siya. Okay lang kasi magbabago naman yan. Corrupt naman yan susunod. Ganyan din ang laro ng career bureaucrats natin. So, never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
Tungkol sa information, I mentioned kanina that there is, in the entire world, there's no freedom of information. It's either controlled by a party, like China, Vietnam, even Singapore is controlled by a party, or by the financial ruling class, which we are seeing in the United States, in Europe, but the people are struggling against it, kaya nananalo ang mga socialist and right-wing parties in Europe now. But still, it's struggled against the information suppression and control of the ruling financial powers sa Western so-called electoral democracies.
The freedom of information issue is different for recipients. The freedom of information issue is different in the Philippines and it is in China. No, in the Philippines, no, supposedly we are free, and people boast about many voices. But actually, what mainstream media and the oligarchy is doing is just controlling the information that is provided. No, and so while it looks like there are many voices, no, these many voices are only focused on certain issues that are broadcast by the headlines. Kaya tayo hindi tayo nagbabasa ng dyaryo eh. Unang-una yung article sa dyaryo bias na, no? Pero tayo hanggang headline na lang tayo nagbabasa. Okay, that's the problem with the freedom of information in the Philippines. Based on what you're saying, the problem with freedom of information in China is people are allowed or are free to address their immediate needs, but the government does not allow them to get involved in the macro issues which don't affect them anyway. And that's why the Chinese people have this tendency to say, let the macro issues, let the government handle those macro issues. Hindi na, wag na namin problema yan. Ang problema namin, ano yung nangyayari sa aming buhay? No?
And sir, I think that trust from the people emanates from the fact that their government is really solving their problems.
Unlike here. So if the government is addressing their immediate needs, their issues, if the government takes position na tanggalin ko muna tanggalin ko muna yung Facebook, yung YouTube kasi ang daming mga kung ano-anong na pagpupulot nyo dyan na mga information that may not be may not be helpful to public discourse. Their government chose to limit it, at yung payoff niya is para hindi maging magulo, para hindi
di ba, in the first place, hindi nyo naman concern yung mga, yung mga bagay-bagay na makikita nyo dyan about matters that government naman talaga dapat ang magtatalakay. Unlike here in the Philippines, para kasi dito kasi sa Pilipinas, we feel entitled to all information. And we feel entitled that when we get certain information, we feel entitled that we can also decide on it. So, yun, so kagaya nung mga, that's why irrational behavior comes up when it comes to confidential fund, na parang, wala kang access dyan. Kaya nga confidential, wala kang access dyan. It's very difficult for a normal Filipino to accept that there are information that you cannot access. Ano ba? Ganon. Kasi feeling nga nila, parang, ay hindi, freedom, lahat po pwede ko dapat makita at malaman. Because akala niya, crucial yung opinion niya in processing such information, which unfortunately, hindi naman talaga. Like, for example, masegue ko lang ng very, very slight. Like, for example, yung issue on the confidential fund and things like that. Those are actually inherent power that you give to any personality that you elect. When you elect them, you already decided. So when such person is elected and wanted to utilize and want to make decisions on how to program yung kanyang mga confidential and intelligence resources, you're not included in that decision-making process anymore. So,
It's not an oxymoron.
mhm.
We talk about confidential funds.
Aha.
I mean, the fact that it's confidential, hindi dapat alam ng
Correct. And ang difference nga po nun is that tayong mga Pilipino, hindi natin gets yon kasi nga ang natin, we are blinded by this unlimited freedom that we think we enjoy. But in reality, no. You are not, you actually don't have access to it, and you have to accept that you don't have access to it. You are not authorized to have access to it. You are not in the position to know what's in there. So bakit umiiyak? Bakit nagagalit? I mean, yung mga ganitong bagay, I think China is saving themselves from all this drama. So they just rather, sige, wag na lang kayong magkaroon ng access sa mga ganitong information para hindi na siya makadagdag sa ingay. And then we focus on, understanding what's the real problem of the society. And I think that's all, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. There are some real problems that we have here in the Philippines. Pagkain, tubig, kuryente, pagnanakaw ng mga politiko and things like, those are the problems that we should really resolve. Real problems.
That's not why our laws don't get implemented.
Yeah.
That's why I think Congress should pass a law to make implementation of laws better. If that's possible.
Yeah.
One basic, there are many reasons for China to be functioning as under a democratic socialistic system compared to the Philippines. Unang-una, yung population nila 1.4 billion. So they have to be very sensitive to public opinion. Why? Because their system is bottoms up. Bottoms up. their leaders are elected from the communes. And by the way, that is where the name communist comes from, no? The community. And from the community, from the communes or the barangays, they're elected to a higher level, let us say in the local picture, to the municipal level. From the municipal level, they elect among themselves who will be promoted to the provincial level. And on the provincial level, they elect among themselves who will be promoted to the national level, and so on and so forth. And the norm is really the endorsement or acceptability in the level that you belong to. For instance, in the commune, the best way is really to show that you are capable of public service. So when the community sees that, no, makakatulong pala ito, ha, sa atin. So ipopromote kanila. Pag nag-eleksyon sila, iaakit kanila. Based on meritocracy. The whole system, the whole political system is based on meritocracy. You know, even Xi Jinping had a difficulty entering the Communist Party. Even Xi Jinping had to be experience some sort of gestation before getting into becoming the governor of Fujian province. Matagal yan. And from the maging governor siya ng Fujian province, nakita nationally na he was able to solve the poverty situation in Fujian province. And so he was promoted to becoming Secretary General of the Communist Party, which basically runs the whole government. And nung nandun na siya sa level na yon, he was key to planning the liberation of about 800 million naman, no? Na on a national level from poverty. So it's a success that begets another success. No? The Chinese looks for the solution to the problem. The Filipino looks for a problem for every solution. Yun ang diferensya eh. Sa barangay level pa lang, ang iniisip na ng mga tao dito sa Pilipinas, eh kung paano yung may isahan niya, palalamangan niya yung kapitbahay niya. Di ba? Imbes na magtulungan. Why? Because we get this from our colonial past. But China also had its colonial past. Why is it that the attitude going out of a colonial past is different? Because of the effect of Confucianism. Yun yung tinatawag na and a variety of Taoism. Kasi yun yung principle ng harmony. No? Nandun entrenched sa kanilang community na kailangan maging harmonious yung community. No? So when they proceed from there, they look at the colonial past nila as years of humiliation. Tayo, iba attitude natin sa colonialism. Ang attitude natin sa colonialism is magneted towards going to the country of the colonial power and looking for a greener pasture outside of the country. So marami mga basic differences. And the choosing of our leaders is really through electoral system na usually sino ba pwedeng tumakbo sa eleksyon? Yung mayayaman, yung mga may kaya, at yung mga tao, mamimili lang doon, no? Multiple choice, no? Oh, kaya puro lesser evil na kukuha natin. Oh. Yun nga, yung minention ko yun, yung meritocracy. No? Kaya we always go back. We always go back to siguro there are just some few exceptions. Oh. Okay. I have already provided the basic foundation for that, which is we have to accept that there is an asymmetry in our claims. China's claim is on the basis of sovereignty, which is which denotes ownership, control. The Philippines' claim is on the basis of sovereign rights. The basis of this sovereign rights is just one treaty, UNCLOS, which became effective in 1994. Okay? The basis of the Chinese claim, may question eh. So sovereignty is superior to sovereign rights. Sovereign rights cannot protrude sovereignty. There is only one way sovereign rights can protrude sovereignty. It is when the sovereign allows it. So it is only through bilateral negotiations that we can exercise our sovereign rights, which are only economic rights. Posible naman eh. And nangyari na. Meron tayong 9 islands na pinapayagan naman tayong pumunta. Di ba? Oh. Kung makakapunta ba tayo sa ano? Sa Pag-asa? Kung hindi tayo papayagan ng China? Eh, it's even outside of our exclusive economic zone. Alam nyo ba yon? Ang Pag-asa is outside of our exclusive economic zone. Pero pinapayagan tayo. Kailangan pumayag sila. Inoferan tayo ng 60% ng langis at gaas sa Reed Bank. 60. Pumapayag ang China that we take the benefit of our sovereign rights in that yung word kasing exclusive creates a misconception. Let's just call it economic zone. Pwede natin bungkalin, pabungkal sa China, puhunan pa nila, makinarya pa nila, tao pa nila. Pag nabungkal yun, 60 atin, lamang pa tayo, 40% sa kanila. So, there is only one way we can have our sovereign rights accomplished. It is with the permission of the one claiming sovereignty over the area. Otherwise, trespassing tayo. Hindi eh. Ang laki na ulo natin eh. Wala na nga tayong entitlement doon sa ano. Magpapadala pa tayo doon. Magsasama pa tayo ng Amerikano, magsasama pa tayo ng Australiano, magsasama pa tayo ng Hapon, magsasama tayo ng German, magsasama tayo ng France. Ano magiging reaksyon ng may-ari? Hindi tayo palulusutin.
Countries. Yeah. Well, the event in Shandong is really a pitch of China to the world, of its vision on shared community. It's very different on how the tawag na nila ay yan yung well the Europeans and the Americans approach ang tawag dito, approach yung future kasi the China, well, and those countries with the same thinking, they realize that the best way to really survive is to ensure that when we cooperate, there should always be mutual benefit, there should be mutual respect, that when we do transaction, we focus on, what is, they treat every transaction as an opportunity for, as a window for further relationship, further dealings. In fact, when a representative from Hungary spoke during that event, and sabi niya, natuwa kami nung nagkaroon kami ng project with China because of that, we were able to know each other at wala namang ibang contentious activity na ginawa. And we found out that, it is an opening for future partnerships also. During the conference, it was always mentioned that we should focus always, all countries in the world should always focus on partnership rather than alliances. So that was emphasized because syempre pag sinabi mo kasing ally, who are you fighting with, di ba? Who are you fighting with? And it's not supposed to be like that. Well, the mood was set because of what happened during the remnants of Cold War. Now you have to take a stand, you have to be, diba, aligned with certain superpower, and if you are not aligned with them, you're not an ally. If you're not an ally, then you are an enemy. That's not the pitch of the Chinese, which by now is occupying a very, very powerful space in the world when it comes to every aspect, technology, economy, even in they are also parang they are whether we like it or not, they are going to be the new leader of the world. And their pitch to the world is that let us not be destructive. Instead, let us strive together, because my development doesn't mean lesser for you, lesser space for you to develop. My development would encourage those who would join same vision to also develop. And that is why I felt that Philippines is not taking advantage of it. Philippines is not taking advantage of the opportunities that comes along with such offering. Bakit natin pinaprioritize parate yung hindi natin pagkakaunawaan kesa yung mga areas na pwede nating pagkaintindihan? Vietnam and China, they also have disputes. In fact, at the moment, China has dispute with India still, Bhutan, Pakistan, and Southeast Asian countries because of the South China Sea. There were intense confrontation between Vietnam and China. But Vietnam and China, when it comes to their when it comes to their economic front, it is not affected by the dispute that they have. And that's what China is promoting. Whenever we're going to do a transaction, let us focus on the things that we can...
Mahina ang audio ni Miss Joie.
Hello? Ayan. Let us focus on the things that we can agree on. And then, yung mga bagay that we cannot agree, we can just park it. And it is rooted mainly dun sa idea nila ng peaceful coexistence, ng harmony. The Chinese are very big on that. That everything, the first order of business, when there is an interaction or when there is a, let's say, partnership or any activity that will require interaction with another party, the first order of business is to harmonize. And when you harmonize, ano ba yung mga areas dito na magkakaintindihan tayo? Yung hindi tayo magkakaintindihan, itatabi muna natin yan, ipapark muna natin yan. We have to focus on the things that we can agree on. And what I can't understand is why Philippines is not doing that. What are we going to lose? What are we going to lose if we try to cooperate, sit down, and talk with them so that we can understand further our disagreement and understand the actual spaces where we can work together. And for me, it's getting, sabi ko nga kanina, it's really getting obscene that we are not taking advantage of what China is offering to the world. The conference in September 21 to 23 were participated by a lot of African countries. And they actually boast the fact na ang daming yumaman na mga African when China started putting investment in there. They taught them how to do business. May mga tinuruan silang mag-garden ng vegetable, mag-farm ng mushroom and other things. And talagang ang daming yumaman na mga African countries, individuals in those African countries because of this kind of initiatives. Have we seen any other country doing the same effort such as that? I don't think so.
Just reminder to everybody, it's 11:46. We'll end at 12 noon. So anyway,
Just one.
Okay.
I hope I'm not. In the conference, was there any articulation, that China is proposing or is stating a different model of being a world hegemon? Kasi ang United States, alam naman natin yung style niya to be the dominant power in the world, di ba? Kumbaga unang-una i-colonize ka. Pagkatapos noon, pipilit yung kanilang value system sa iyo, tapos gagamit ng mga katakot-takot na extractive methods. So ekonomiyan mo ay para lang mga suportahan yung ekonomiya nila, no? Now, that is the traditional US hegemonic strategy. Now, what you're saying is China is proposing or stating a new model of being a world hegemon. Now, was that articulated in the conference at all? That China is actually proposing an alternative model of being a world dominant power. Kumbaga, that is supposedly more consistent with a multipolar world.
What? Well, to answer the question, based on what China is espousing, they're not really after ano no being a hegemon. In fact, they are big on multipolarity, and the keynote speaker. Mhm.
Kasi throughout history, no, the dominant nation just assumes na lahat kayo alila.
Yeah.
That is a traditional strategy.
Mhm,
Now,
mhm.
China is saying it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
We can be a world hegemon, but we don't make alila everybody else.
Correct,
No?
correct.
Is that being articulated formally?
Yeah, yes, yes. In fact, the keynote speaker in that event is the vice president of the vice president of China. And in fact, what he said, there should be no supremacy. Walang supreme sa atin. Walang supreme dapat. I just want to look at my notes. Kasi that has been the criticism na baka ito kasing diskarte ng China na to. Ito yung ginagawa ninyo in order to cover for your intention na maging hegemon. But hindi, well, at least no, China is very careful in saying na we do not want to we do not want to develop at the expense of other. What we want is to thrive, and my success doesn't mean that I have to diminish your success. Well, of course, hindi naman I remember kasi yung isang co-delegate, yung isang Indonesian na co-delegate, nagtanong siya, sabi niya gano'n, in my country, marami kayong mga minahan marami kayong mga mining company dun sa bansa ko. Pagkatapos, ang ginagawa nyo, ine-exhaust nyo yung mga namin, yung mga resources namin doon. At the end of the day, kayo rin naman talaga yung nakikinabang nung whatever na raw materials na nakukuha nyo dito. Ganun. Unfortunately, the Chinese representative during that time did not answer the question, siguro baka na off guard, thrown off guard sila dun sa question na yun. Pero sabi nung Indonesian na kasama ko, sabi niya, well, we talk about it after. Sabi ko, well, kasi when just like any other business, you want to have maximum profit at the least cost. Ang tanong, while let's say ganun yung situation, because you cannot process your natural resources there anyway, so China is taking advantage of the situation where they natural resources from your country and then process it in their own country. But does that mean that I ask him, isn't that transaction produced other deals with China that beneficial rin naman for Indonesia? Which is somewhat true kasi ang dami rin namang Chinese investment talaga sa Indonesia. Hindi lang naman yon. But whether kasi parang ang dating tinake advantage lang yung sa part yung sa part na yon, pinakinabangan ng China, pagkatapos iniwan na sila ng malala. Pero hindi naman kasi marami rin silang relationship with China in which it was opened up because of that prior relationship. Hindi naman siya yung kagaya ng ginawa, for example, yung ginawa ng mga British sa Malaysia na in-exhaust yung rubber industry, pagkatapos nung umalis na yung mga British, pinag-iiwanan na yung mga trabahador nila doon ng bonggang-bong. Yun talaga very parang almost slavery levels yung ganon. But for this one, I think hindi naman kasi perfect rin ng China eh. I'm very sure, you know, kahit naman mga Pilipinong negosyante, they're gonna have the same thinking that if there is a business opportunity, then we are going to take advantage of it. I, I don't think it is leaning towards being a hegemon, simply because if they wanted to do that, they could have done that long time ago. Pero hindi kasi angkop dun sa history and sa kanilang governance philosophy yung ganun eh. In fact, even their modernization, while it is very, very successful, ang sinasabi nila is that this is the modernization na angkop sa China situation. It may not work for you, but it worked for China. So, yun lang.
Yeah. If I may add to that, yung comment ni Patatutini sa chat na nakikita natin, perhaps as a prevailing reminder to Chinese leaders, Deng Xiaoping encouraged the people of the world, together with the Chinese people, to overthrow China once it becomes a social imperialist. No? I think there are some realities in the modern age with the modern technology that obviates the sole hegemon in the future of mankind. Unang-una, the nuclear age. Wala na, the US was the hegemon for a century and a half because nobody could touch it, being moated, being protected by the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. Pero ngayon, hindi na with the nuclear weapons that we have been discussing earlier. Number two, it is hard to be a hegemon in a world where precisely these separations of the Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and so on protects so many power centers across the globe. So kaya nagde-develop ng sariling power center ang Africa, in South Africa, Brazil in South America, and of course in Asia, India and China, and in North America, US, and of course Europe as a contiguous zone. So may mga built-in, but in philosophically China, and in fact the conference, if you restate the conference again,
Commemoration of International Day
Day of Peace, at saka yung sa Shandong, yung slogan nila ay shared future with through coexistence. Basta yun.
Through building a shared community through peaceful coexistence.
Peace coexistence, yun ang key concepts. Now, looking at the vision of the major two superpowers, what is the vision of China? It's very clear, community of shared future for mankind. So it's an non-exclusivist vision.
Yes.
Anong vision ng Amerika? Anybody remember? America first. Yun lang. Kami ang nanguna. We are the only ones. But anyway, we are, I think, 5 minutes to 12 noon, and we've taken a lot of time of Madam Joy Cruz. Of course, my reaction is we have discovered a new spokesperson for international peace in the person of Madam Joy Cruz. And in the last 2-3 minutes, I wanted to ask, how do you think we can advance our peace campaign in the country? We are scheduling. You were introduced to the movement in Cebu because you attended the anti-war movement activity or Congress in Cebu. We're going to Cagayan de Oro. Do you think you'll have time if we schedule to join us there? And then re-share your experience and your insight and your conviction for global peace. And what else can we do to promote the peace agenda for mankind?
I think it's really about time for the Philippines to think about its own interest. We are just a speck in the in the grand scheme of things. When if there is a situation wherein, let's say, the nuclear war will happen, we are just a speck of it. At pag nabura tayo, I don't think the world will remember us because we are just a very, very small part of it. And so that is why it's very important that Philippines must advance its own interest to ensure that it is going to endure, to ensure that it is going to survive, and create its own destiny, not dependent on China, not dependent on US, and things like that. Um, uh, yung China kasi ang sinasabi niya is that, you know, we want to deal with sovereign equal. And sa totoo lang, when you hear the Chinese, when you hear Chinese officials talking about the Philippines, it is not really using that tone that we are sovereign. They are always reminding us, please do not allow yourself to be used as a pawn in this war theater, in this war game. They don't look at us as someone who's sovereign enough to decide for our own fate. And the number one thing to address for me is that we really have to show that we can really decide for our own fate. And that means we have to recalibrate our relationship with the Americans. We have to recalibrate our the um, the policies of the current government, whether or not it serves the purpose of the Philippine interest or someone else. So we cannot really talk about peace if we cannot really represent the real interests of the Filipino people.
Thank you, Ms. Joie, and everyone else who presented. Thank you to everyone who watched online, Facebook, and in YouTube, and everyone who will join us in the replay. We had a great discussion today with the Kamentong, with Kaado, with Ms. Joie to tell us about the realities in the country, the morbid details of nuclear war, and how we should be promoters of peace and pursue development, not just for ourselves, but for the whole world. Thank you.